Hello and welcome to A Little Bit of Wellness. I'm joined by my guest, Ray Wall. Ray, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. So just to start off, for anyone who doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Ray Alice Wall and I am 24. I am working at the moment as an online coach. I'm a really sporty person, so I've always kind of been into sports, but I've recently branched out into online, whereas I always would have been just kind of in personal training. I'm also a nutritionist. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, and yeah, I've got a lot of plans coming up soon. So hopefully we'll be able to touch on a lot of that.
Very nice. I actually didn't know you were a nutritionist now. That's funny enough. I didn't.
Yeah.
When did you do that?
After we finished college, I actually went on and did a diploma in nutrition and dietetics up in Dublin.
Ah, very nice. I thought about that actually, but I was like, I didn't bother to finish. But it was something I kind of considered. Well, like, what was it like? Was it really like advanced compared to what we did?
It was and it wasn't. There's certain aspects of it that you're kind of like, I don't know how relevant it is, but it is important to know every aspect of it, I suppose. But it's a little bit more advanced than what we did because we didn't cover that much nutrition in our course. But it goes really well together. Like to have the personal training and the nutrition together, I think it kind of puts me up a little bit higher than a lot of people that would have the same qualification that we would have.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And just for anyone who doesn't know, like we went to college together. We were kind of we always avoided each other. So when you came back, you kind of took a year off, and you're kind of in my year then. And then when you came back to my year, had to take a year out, so I ended up in the year below you again. So we always avoided each other. So like, what was kind of college life for you? What was the experience like?
College itself, so I'd say if I was to round it off, I probably had about 3 months of college that I enjoyed out of the 4 years that I was there. Even though I only graduated with a level 7, I had to do 4 years. I loved the course. I knew I was in the right place the whole time, but I'm surprised that I actually did finish it out because my college experience, I suppose, was a bit different to the normal college experience. I didn't exactly live the student life that a lot of students rave about. I moved into college in first year in 2014. I went in and I moved in with my best friend, and it was just the two of us in the house, and within 3 months we fell out. So I was kind of left on my own, and I kind of felt that bit, I suppose, isolated. Like I had loads of friends for the first few months. The two of us had friends together, but then when she left, she kind of left and moved in with our friends. So I kind of felt a bit isolated. And I think that's what actually led to me having to repeat second year. So in terms of my experience, it probably wasn't the most positive. But from where I am now, looking back, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I had the same. Like anything I kind of look back on that I was like, that wasn't the best thing that happened. I always say, well, it's shaped us into who we're becoming now. So like, it was definitely worth it.
Absolutely.
Can you just tell me, say, what that time was like? So if there is any kind of college students that are watching this at the moment, what was it like for you to cope with that, like that feeling of kind of being kind of excluded and almost kind of away from everyone? What was it like?
I suppose, like, when we were growing up, there wasn't that much talk of, like, I suppose anxiety and stuff was kind of just being talked about. It wasn't really spoke about when we were young. So I didn't really know, like, what was I experiencing. And I think what I experienced was I was told I was depressed. And to this day, I'm kind of like, I don't know, was I depressed? I was just more isolated. I was kind of, anytime I had to go to college, I got really like nervous. I got really anxious about it. And I suppose I almost was my own worst enemy because I isolated myself from everybody. I thought, oh, she's after moving over. Now, this girl that I'm talking about, we've since have made friends again, and we are still very good friends. But yeah, and I suppose I just kind of was under the impression that that nobody liked me when that wasn't the case, because I'd like to think that I'm a fairly likable person when I'm myself, but I just wasn't myself. So it wasn't easy, and looking back, I don't know how did I finish it out? Like, I don't understand, but I got through it, and it was tough, but I had a lot of support. Like, I come from the most amazing family. Like, I'm the youngest of 3 girls. Like, I was well looked after. I had a lot of support. I spoke to all the right people. Like, I had regular meetings with the head of department. I had regular meetings with a lot of my lecturers where they obviously had seen that I was struggling a bit, and not from college point of view. Like, I was well able, I've always been very well able for learning. Like, I did very well in school, all through, like, effortlessly. I didn't really have to, not that you shouldn't work hard, but I was more focused on sports, but I still did very well in school. And when it came to college, how I felt impacted my ability to perform, because it was like paranoia and anxiety, and I wasn't sure, like, am I doing the right thing? And I didn't go into college then a lot because I would talk myself out of it because of how I was feeling. But what got me through it, I suppose, was the fact that I knew that I wanted to do this. If I had, I think if I had, I was only 17 going to college, so I do think that if I had taken that year to kind of grow up a bit and realize that, like, everybody else isn't going to look after me, I have to look after myself, then I probably would have managed a bit better. But I got through it, and I took advantage of all the support that I had. I spoke to people regularly about how I was feeling. Now, not as much as I should have at the start, but I think I kind of learned that I had to take advantage of the supports that were around me. And to be honest, I genuinely thought that nobody liked me. And it was just, there was no reason for that. And I didn't actually think that I was the problem. I thought everybody else was the problem. And it wasn't until my own sister, she's lived in London since I was very young, and she came home I think it was Christmas time, and she said to my mother, there's something going on with Ray. Whereas I thought I was fine, but it was just that when I was in college was the issue. So then I obviously took that as, okay, I need to kind of cop on here and get through this. So I did get through it like that. I did take full advantage of all the supports that were around me after a certain period of time. It was really hard, but what got me through it was the fact that I knew I was in the right place. Now, was I in the right place? I don't know, but I was in the right course. So I knew I had to finish it out. And like that, looking back now, I was dead right to finish that out and to stick with it.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's just like there's so many kind of probably students now at the moment that kind of they might say like you kind of split up with kind of your friend and you're kind of having a falling out, and then she kind of joins another group. But a lot of kind of students that age don't realize the impact that could have on the other person that's kind of been left out. And it's only when like we kind of get out of that environment that we look back and we're like, okay, like it's really important to consider other people when you do make decisions. And I think that's kind of the message more than anything.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't think that when that incident happened with my friend, I don't think she meant to isolate me. And I do think that if I had approached this group of people that we had made friends with together and said, like, look, me and her aren't on good terms, but that doesn't mean that we can't be friends too. I did it to myself. I isolated myself and told myself that they didn't want to be my friends anymore. And like, I'd say a lot of people that I was like in college with, like you were obviously you weren't in college at this stage, but a lot of people that I was in college with probably never knew this. Like, they probably just thought that I was just decided to be quiet, whereas I'm not. Like, I'm very outgoing, and I'm like all through school, like I had loads of friends, and I was really outgoing. I love being involved in stuff. I love being, like, I won't say the center of attention, but I love having the chance to like speak my mind and stuff. So I'd say people would be very surprised to hear that is actually what happened, that wasn't me, like, when people didn't really get a chance to know me, and then I of course self-sabotaged and made the whole situation worse for myself. But I was young, I was only 17, I didn't understand what I was going through, and looking back, I know I had a serious case of, we'll say, social anxiety, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I was depressed, but I was definitely going through something, and I don't think that it was that girl's fault. She didn't realize how it affected me, and she actually left college, so I don't think she ever knew how much it affected me. But yeah, just be aware of the people that you're leaving behind, I suppose, and I would definitely be aware now not to ever leave anybody out, because I realize that it mightn't be your fault, but it could be in their head. They could be exaggerating it and making it so much worse.
Exactly, 100%. I couldn't agree more with that. It's funny that you said it, like, you look kind of speak your mind, you're really kind of outgoing. Like, that's the reason you're on here. I seen like a video you put up, I'd say, how long ago was it now? Maybe a couple of months ago, and I was like, geez, this girl, she knows what she's talking about, like, and it was only by chance and then we got talking and stuff, and look,
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah. Once I get talking, you can't stop me. That's the problem.
I can vouch for that one. So this kind of moving on from like that and kind of in college life and stuff, you've recently, like, you've been to different places, you've been traveling, etc. Can you talk to me about the places you've been and what that was like?
Yeah, so the main reason, so I'm not one of these people that's traveled the world, like I'm really not. And like that, when I left college, I was like still in that bit of a rut. I knew I had finished college, and I was just, I didn't care what result I got. I wanted to just get out of college. And then I started this job, and so what that led me to kind of come upon was this seminar on, we'll say, life energy and goal setting, essentially, like, to keep it simple. So I went to the Bahamas and I studied for 2 weeks on a 2-week seminar covering like that, how to program your mind to be more positive, because it's something that I would have probably always been searching for unknowns to myself because of the stuff that I'd been through. So how to, we'll say, reprogram your mind and not to have all these negative thoughts, and how to, we'll say, free up your we'll say your mental state so that you're not focusing on negatives. Like, if you consider, like, when you think of a time that you were sad, you feel that feeling. So when you're sad, if you think of a time that you were at your most happiest, that feeling will come up in you. And how to kind of change your mental state and to, I suppose, improve your whole mental well-being, and how to not dwell on the bad. So I learned a lot about that, and then about, like, you know, life energy and how we are all just this one big body of energy and all this kind of stuff. Like, a lot of people, when I talk about it, they're like, oh, you're Ray's a airy fairy, like, you know, she's away with the birds. But it's something that seriously helped me. So I spent 2 weeks over there, and it was the most amazing thing ever. And then I came home, and this was January 2019 that I went there. So we finished college in 2018. I got this job as a personal trainer. I was studying to be a nutritionist, and then I went and did this in the middle of my nutrition study. So then I came back and I thought, right, this is my year. I'm just gonna be like, everything's gonna go right for me. And then I went through a really traumatic experience then that summer, and that really set me back, and I went back to my old ways again. I was back thinking, like, I'd kind of given up, we'll say, for 3 or 4 years. I was in and out, you know, I love sports, and I was in and out of camogie and football, and I wasn't really doing the things that I know that I love, because like that, I was like, nobody wants me there, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then I came back from this seminar, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be playing for Clare this year. Like, you know, it's going to be the best year ever. And like, my job's going to go really well, and everything's going to go perfectly well. And then I had that setback, and it didn't, I went back into what I had done before. I'd learned all this stuff about how to be more positive. So then I said, feck it, and I went again. So on January 2020, I went again. I went off to the Bahamas again, and I spent 2 weeks over doing the same seminar, and I came back, and that's really when my life turned around. So in terms of travel, I think every time I've traveled, it has benefited me massively. Like, I have seen a lot of the world, like, as I was growing up, like, we were very lucky. We always went on lovely holidays, and, you know, I've seen lots of different parts of the world. But in terms of travel, when I think of the most influential travel experience that I've had, it's definitely those 2 trips, because of the long-term, I suppose, effect it's had on me, and the positive effect. Because looking back now, like, I set this goal when the last time I was there in 2020. I set this goal, like, there was so much involved in it. Like, you know, the more people you involve in your long-term goals, the better it is, because you can have such a positive impact on the people around you and not just your own life. So I set this goal, like, there was loads involved, but it was like that I'm going to be doing back, we'll say, at my best in terms of sports, like, no injuries. I'm going to have my dream car. I'm going to have my own business. And like, 18 months later, here I am, and a lot of that has come true for me. So I think taking yourself out of your comfort zone and going, like, I traveled on my own, like, going somewhere, having an experience, whether that's just that you want to, I don't know, like, go to America and live on your own for a year, whatever it is, get out, go have that life experience, because the positive impact it's had on me, like, I can't stress that enough. It's literally been the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I know myself from just talking to you recently. Like, I didn't know you when you were telling me times that were tough for you, but like, since I've got to know you, like, you've even had a massive change in kind of my life. Like, every day, the kind of we chat and things, like, you know, like, how we kind of talk. Like, there's just a vibe there that goes, and it's just like, yeah, my mood goes from here to here straight away, and it's just, you know, that difference is amazing. Like,
yeah, that's what I love to, I suppose. I love hearing that I have made that impact, because obviously with the job that I'm in, like, what I aim to do is to promote a positive lifestyle and promote, we'll say, positivity, and to help people to improve their lifestyle. And I get some people coming to me, like, and they're in a complete rut. Like, obviously when I was working in the gym that I was in, I had a lot of that as well, because I would have had, we'll say, face-to-face consultations. And I think people, when they come into a consultation like that, they take it as almost like a therapy session, you know, like they just pour their emotions. And like my mother's always said to me, like, Ray, you need to stop worrying about other people, because all my friends through all my life have always come to me with their problems. Like out of everybody else, it's always me that they came to. And I suppose I'm a fairly empathetic person, because I take that on board, and I suppose I carry a lot of it around with me. So, and I love it. Like it's something that I wouldn't change. So obviously with the line of work that I'm in, I think it is quite important to be that kind of person. And I think I probably am like that in action these days. That's what I'm doing, is I'm trying to just make everybody feel better, and obviously improve on themselves in as best they possibly can.
Yeah, and just can you just take me back maybe to kind of the course and things? Kind of what stuff do you do? What were the contents of the course? Was there anything that really stood out from it?
Yeah, like there was loads. So like there's obviously a lot of relaxation and meditation involved, and like that writing out. So we went through a lot of like memory stuff first. So like that, how I was saying, how if you're feeling like in a bad state, well, why focus on the badness? Why would you dwell on all this negativity? Like bring it back to the positives. You know, if everything's going badly, it's probably not. That's just how you feel. Whereas if you were to bring up, if you have one exercise we did that has always stood to me is if you have written out your 5 best memories. So we'll say, I don't know, it might be a trip that you went to as a child, you know, these things. And everybody has those, we'll say 5 memories that really stand out from their childhood or even from their adulthood. And if you have that written out in detail, like when you're feeling a bit negative, if you were to read that feeling will come up in you. You will literally feel that feeling that you had on that day, down to every detail, like what you could smell, what you could taste, what you could hear, see, feel, everything. And it will really bring it up in you. And that's one thing that I've kind of always managed to bring myself back out of that negative state by just focusing on something positive. And we did a lot of exercises, like obviously the meditation and stuff. We did a lot of goal setting. So like that, like you write out your memories, also write out your future plans and where you want to be in so much detail. Like pick a scene from I don't know, something that you can picture yourself doing. Like one of mine was that I was outside my dream house with my dream car. I was like, I don't know, all my family were around me. Both my sisters had their babies. They were getting married, you know, like there was loads, and I involved everybody in it. And so much of that has come true. And it's all just down to, I suppose, clearing your mind and how would you say, like getting into this form of unconscious attention. I'm not sure if you've heard of that before, where so you've got like different types of attention. You've got inattention, where you're not really paying attention at all, and then you've got, we'll say, split attention, where you're thinking about one thing but you're trying to listen to somebody else. And then you've got unconscious attention, where your whole mind is so like surrounded with the thing that you're doing. Like a lot of sports people would say this when they're like in the flow, you know, like when you're
yeah, I get you know.
So with it, like, and that would be like a form of unconscious attention, where your mind is just so wrapped. So yeah, that course I did really taught me how to, I suppose, purposely get into unconscious attention, to maintain that. Obviously it's not the easiest thing to do, and at times I'm like, oh sure, my brain would just like, you know, go away on me, like you would, because I'm a normal person at the end of the day, like. And yeah, so there's a whole lot that we did, and the things that stuck with me the most were probably the positive memories, in order to get yourself out of a negative state, and the goal setting, as in write it out like step by step, every detail, and read it to yourself every day, like that. I set one of them, and it's pretty much come true for me, like, you know, not every detail, but like a whole lot of it has come true. And yeah, and just the realization that like nobody is any different to anybody else. We're all the same. We all have, you know, we all have feelings, and we all have ambitions, and we all have like badness in our life and goodness in our life, and just how to make the most of what you have.
Oh yeah, there's something really powerful you said there. Just during the middle of it, you said, "I'm just a person," and it was like it's okay if I don't always do them good things all the time. You know, recognizing that is I think it's such a beautiful thing to have. Like,
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, nobody is perfect, and like that we all have the same feelings, whether we have them over the same reasons or not. We all experience the same things. Obviously people have certain life experiences different to others, but nobody can be like positive and amazing all the time. And I think especially with social media, a lot of people think that, you know, like especially in terms of personal trainers and coaches, people think, oh, you're so positive all the time, and how do you do that? Like, how are you so upbeat? And like, it's just because they don't showcase the negativity. Nobody goes up and moans and groans about the bad things in their life out in public. Like, you know, that's the kind of thing that you keep to yourself. And I suppose it's just that realization as well, that not everything that we see in photos and in videos is actually the reality of it.
Yeah, 100%. You always nearly put like the best side out when it comes to social media, it seems.
Oh yeah.
Just with say like, so you did the course the first time, you said you came back in January 2020.
Yeah.
What was it like to know what, like the course, the contents of the course, what was it like to actually be mentally prepared? Did that like flow better for you, or was the first time really where it really like clicked the switch?
So the first time I did it, like I said, it was I came home thinking this is going to be my year. I came home thinking, like, you know, everything's going to be amazing from here on out. Like, I'm never going to be in a bad place again. And then I had that setback, and all of a sudden I was. So yeah, there is a lot you can take from it. And if I had, I suppose, practiced it as much as I probably should have, I might not have been set back so badly. But the fact that I suppose I came home thinking I've got it now. That's it. I don't need to do it anymore. Whereas I should have kept it up. Whereas the second time I did it, I kept it up. I practiced all these things that I learned out there, and the long-term effects. Like, that's 18 months ago now, and like I'm still seeing results. You know. So, and it's not even like I've done anything special. I'm literally just taking time for myself and focusing on myself, and I suppose trying to share positivity with other people. And people don't realize the impact that you can have on other people's lives through the simplest little things, you know. So the first time I found it amazing, and it did really, really well. But like that, I was just still not in the right headspace. I think going into it, I wasn't like I was easily taken from it. Once I kind of got home, I kind of went back into normal life, and everything was crazy, and I was working, and you know, I didn't really have the focus that I would have had when I came home from the second time after doing it. So
Yeah, I think it really highlights so many people, whether it's physical goals or whether it's mental health goals, whatever it is, they look for a quick fix, and it's like, oh, what can I do for 3-4 weeks that cures me? And it's like, I just be like, you know, you can't do that. You know, you have to do something consistently. You have to make it part of your life, and you have to enjoy doing it as well. And like, it seems the way you talk about it, it's something that like you actually thoroughly enjoy, which is really, really important as well.
yeah, it's a process. Like, everything is a process. Life is a process. You know, like, if you wanted a quick fix for everything, well, then why don't you just want a quick fix for life and just live it really happily, and that's the end of it, you know? Like, you can't have everything all the time. Like, sometimes you're going to feel in the best mental shape ever, but you mightn't be happy with your body. And a lot of people find that while they're trying to achieve physical changes with their body, it can actually have a negative impact on their mind, you know. So like, these are two separate things, and obviously they can be approached as a unit, but they're very separate, and they're to be treated and I suppose approached in very different ways, because at the end of the day, nobody is gonna be A1 for their whole lives. You know, we all have ups and downs, whether that's mentally, physically, like even emotionally, socially. Like, nobody is completely outgoing 100% of the time, you know. So at the end of the day, I think it's a process. Everything is a process, and it's something that you have to stick with. And a quick fix is never going to be the solution, because you'll just be left disappointed and feeling even worse than you were when you started. It's the kind of thing you have to stick with and just chisel away at gradually over a period of time, and you eventually will get there. But it should be a process that you gradually feel better. It shouldn't be you feel all right and then you feel really bad, and then you feel better for a short period of time, and then you're right back to where you started. Like, an end goal is something that's meant to make you feel so good. So why not try and just feel better and better and better as you get there, rather than up and down? You know, it should be slow and just gradually getting better and better until you hit this amazing end goal.
Yeah, no, like I feel like you got into my thoughts there, like for a second, because like anytime I'm describing kind of people's happiness, it's like they're on like a spike, of happiness, whereas I'm like, what you want is this, that you like, you've a little up and then you've a little down, but it's always controlled, it's always managed, and there's always a bigger picture in mind. I think
That's
that if people got into that mindset, there'd be like such less people depressed, and things would just be. And if they're like, if they kind of learned how to control and learn what works for them, so like what worked for you mightn't work for me, but it's just to be open-minded to the fact that okay, this is a process, like you were saying, and everything kind of, it's about, there will be ups and downs, but how you actually use those ups and downs is what makes it.
Yeah, and like nobody's going to take the exact same steps to achieve anything that the other person is going to take. Like everybody's going to have, like, one thing might go really well for one person, but it might go completely, we'll say, I don't know, wrong for the other person. So it's important to realize that not everybody's the same, and everybody can approach things in different ways. And there's so many different ways of approaching everything. But just figure out what exactly it is that you want to achieve right now. And don't be saying, well, I want perfect mind, perfect body. Like, I want to be really outgoing. I want everybody to love me, because you're not going to have all of that at the same time. You know, and the more you learn to love yourself and appreciate what you have and where you are at the moment, the more you'll actually be able to work towards that goal, but you're not going to have it all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So just kind of to take it back to you a bit. So obviously, like you said, you're really sporty when you're younger, you still are. Was that the main reason you got into the industry, or had you plans on going elsewhere and it ended up being something you fell into?
So yeah, this is one thing that I had thought you were going to ask me. All right. So when I was in school, right, like I said, I kind of breezed through school. Like, things just went well for me. I don't know what it was. I was very lucky. I was always out playing sports, but I still did very well in school. And I suppose
Genius.
I went to a guidance counsellor in Leaving Cert, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And she was like, well, what do you enjoy? And I was like, I enjoy running around the pitch, like, but I and she
Same.
was like, like business, do you like maths? I was like, no, not really. Like, you know, I do well in them and I can do them, but I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. Like, no way. And like that, I was only 17 and I was so young, and you know, and all my friends were, like, the majority of my friends were actually in repeat. Like, most of my best friends were the year above me through Camogie. So I was so young and I was like, what am I going to do? And she said, look, there's this course called Health and Leisure. And I was like, yeah, but I wouldn't mind being the physio for the Munster rugby team. And she was like, that was like the dream. And she was like, well, you can do massage with this course. And I was like, okay, but can I be a physio from that? And she's like, you can go on and do physio afterwards. So that was the initial goal, right? So I wanted to go in, I wanted to do massage, and I wanted to go on and do physio afterwards. Now, obviously, that's not what happened, because I went into college and I started doing massage and I enjoyed it. But like, I have chronic back pain in my lower back. So like, it wasn't sustainable for me. I couldn't give 4 massages in a row. Like, I was not able for it. So I then was like, well, what am I going to do? And I was kind of talking to one of my friends who had finished that course, and he had gone on and he did massage as well. And he was working, he was a physio. He'd gone on and done the physio, and he was working in a hospital, and he was like dealing with, we'll say, old men with like injuries that they've gotten from falling and stuff. And I was thinking, that's not what I want. Like, I only want to be a physio if I can be the physio for the Munster rugby team. Like, that was the be all and end all of it for me. And I knew that wasn't realistic. Like, you have to start somewhere. I couldn't just jump into something like that. So I was like, what do I do? And then I suppose I did enjoy the massage, and it is something like that I always will have with me. And, you know, even for friends and family, like, you know, and I do often, we'll say not often, but every once in a while, if somebody needed some form of massage, like, I would be happy to do it for them, but it's definitely not something that I wanted to do long term. So that's when I kind of looked at the personal training aspect. And I was working in a pub. Well, I worked in a gym when I was in first year in college, in a leisure centre, like, just like cleaning up and stuff. And I was like, oh God, this is terrible. Like, I'm just going to pick up weights after people. So then I went and I got a job in a pub, and I worked there for 3 years. And then I was very lucky when I was leaving that job. The owner of the pub actually said to me, oh, I know a girl who has a gym and she's looking for somebody, so I'll put in a good word for you. And I was like, grand, because I was just about to graduate. So that was, I think, May 2018. Just as I graduated, I got that job. So I worked there for pretty much 3 years. I just left in December, just got. So, and obviously I got a great opportunity from there. I was allowed to go to the Bahamas twice for that seminar. I also got my nutrition diploma while I was working there. I was going up to Dublin every weekend to study. So I got a whole lot of opportunity from that job, but it was just a bit restrictive. Once I had all my qualifications and I knew where I wanted to be, like, I wasn't allowed to bring in my own clients. It was just all the gym had the clients and I trained whoever was assigned to me. So there was no progression, we'll say. And I was told what program to give them. I was told what diet to give them. I didn't have freedom to try anything new that I wanted to try myself. So that's kind of why then I left that in December, looking to start a new job on the 4th of January, and then the gyms got closed, and now here I am. So the opportunity that I've always wanted to have my own business, because both my parents are business owners. It just seems like something that I've always wanted to do. So I just in January I just said feck it, and I decided I'm going to start this online coaching, and here I am 5 months later, and it's gone really well.
It is. It's gone very well. And like I never knew like where, so your coaching kind of logo is like raw coaching, and I was like, oh yeah, like I know it's Ray Wall, but I was like, why is there an A in the middle? And then you told me like a couple of nights ago, oh yeah, it's Ray Ellis, and I was like, there we go.
Yeah.
So I never did it. Was like where did it actually like come from? Did it just pop into your head all of a sudden, or was there a method behind it? Because I know you did a course on kind of how to improve yourself in terms of marketing wise and things. Did it come from there, or was it something just of your own thing?
So I decided, I suppose, like, online coaching hasn't always been a huge thing. I had my first online coach over the first lockdown. I took a coach on myself because I had the keys to the gym I was working in, but I was just sick of doing the same training sessions, and I just wanted to kind of spice it up. And I was I never really, I suppose, in terms of like weight and stuff, I never really struggled with that, but I kind of found that I wasn't in the shape that I wanted to be in. So I got myself an online coach, and I was really interested in the way he ran it, and I was like, God, this is really good. And like, I never knew that this was how this kind of thing worked, you know. So I then said, oh, maybe this is something that I want to do myself. So when I left that job in December, I did actually have a plan to start up an online business, but I just wasn't sure when. So then when obviously everything went into lockdown, I never got to start that new job. And I was like, sure, look, what better time than the present? So I got myself a business mentor, and she kind of brought me through step by step how to like, I was like, where do you start? Like, what's step one? How does this start? Like, where do you go from here? And she brought me through it step by step, like how to, I suppose, approach everything from marketing to social media to putting programs in place, how many different programs you should run, pricing, everything. And yeah, that's literally been my backbone. Like, I haven't been in touch much with her. Like, it really took off very fast for me. I think she was actually quite surprised at how fast it took off for me. I think I was kind of, because I started with nothing. I started with no clients. I started with no social proof. So it really progressed very fast for me. And I haven't really spoken to her now since the interview that I did with her about the course that she runs. But every time we do talk, like, she's just, it literally was I couldn't have done it without a business mentor. So like, if somebody is looking to get into the online coaching space, like, it's very overwhelming. Like, where do I start? Where do I go? Like, down to what software do I use? What laptop should I have? The simplest things. So getting a business mentor is definitely the way to go, because it will be a support for you, but it will also give you structure and how to put everything together and how you should present like how you should even present your programs, like what software to use. The most basic things that you think would be fairly straightforward, that to me weren't. Like, I was like, what do I do? So yeah, I got myself a business mentor, and that was, I think I signed up with her on the 7th of January, and that was a 12-week course that I did, and I think that probably ended last month maybe. And yeah, here I am, so still going with it.
Yeah, and like I've seen like some of the results you got. Some of the results like are absolutely amazing. I'll, depending now on my editing skills, we're going to get like a few of them up on the screen, and so people can have a look. And so you as well, on top of that, like, a lot of those results are based off, you have a thing called a 30-day challenge. Can you talk a little bit about that and just let the viewers know what that's about?
Yeah, so I ran this 30-day challenge. It's not a thing that's running evergreen. It's not my evergreen program. It's just something that I'm going to plan to run, I'd say 4, maybe 5 times a year. So I'll be running another one this month. So what it is it's 30 days. It's a challenge. All right. So it's not as, we'll say, tailored as your normal like online coaching package. So everybody gets the same workouts. Your nutrition is tailored, definitely. But it's a group challenge. So you're working as a group. Everybody motivates everybody else. So that we had this big group chat. It started on, I think, the 12th of April. And yeah, 12th of April. No, finished on the 12th of April. I started in March. And it was just like, it was my first group program, and like I never could have expected it to be as successful as it was. First of all, I capped it at 15 people. I was like, oh, I need to just like take it easy. I don't know how many people I'll be able for, because obviously I'm very new to this. And then after I started, I was like, oh, this is going so well. Like, I definitely put more people on this. So I got another 2 people on it, and I had 17 people, like coming from nothing, having 17 people on a program, and the results that came from it. Like, obviously it's 24/7 support. I do obviously weekly check-ins with everybody to cover like how was their week. Obviously things like weight and measurements are included, but coming from my background, that's not really my biggest focus. And to see those results is obviously amazing. But I love the lifestyle change. I love how people can go from being in that rush to being the best version of themselves. And like, I think what stood out to me the most was the lifestyle changes that we achieved. Like some of the messages I've been getting, even from people who have since finished that 30-day challenge, who have said to me like, Ray, I'm still getting better and better. Like it's continued on for them. You know, it's not just day 1, day 30, job done. Like it's a continuous thing, and it's something that you can continue to improve on and continue to take with you. And it's, like I said, it's not just about losing weight. It's not just about getting the measurements to be little bit less. It's about improving your lifestyle. And I always say that I want to bring my clients to a point where they can continue on and improve, but they don't need me anymore. So that's my goal, is to bring people to a point where they don't need me anymore. So whereas I think a lot of people will be under the impression that coaches want people to stay on all the time, but I love to see people go their own way and continue to do amazingly well without me.
Yeah, no, 100% I agree. Like the only clients I'd be thinking long term with is maybe someone that you need performance with, like a proper athlete that needs to be, you know, seriously looked after the whole time.
As well, though, that need constant support, you know, people who have a goal that's miles away, like, you know, and they're the kind of people that do need we'll say the 12-week programs or longer, you know, the 16-week programs. But for people that know they can do better than what they're doing at the moment, but they just need that push, then the likes of a 30-day challenge is the ideal thing for them. Yeah.
100%. Hopefully now that I'm my editing skills have improved enough that I can get all that stuff up on the screen for you, so people can check out the work you're doing. Yeah. So just kind of from there, like you said, you worked in the gym, you've done all that, you've coached people person to person. Can you compare for me what it's like online now compared to what it's actually meeting someone in person? Can you give a few benefits and maybe of both?
Yeah, well, I think it's really individual to the person. Like, you're going to have people that need the in-person support. You're going to have people that, unless they're going to be like, unless they have an appointment that they have to get to, they're not going to do what they have to do. And of course, that's not something that's going to be a trait that person has forever. That's something that's very easily shifted. But certain people need the support in order to make that shift, and they need to be in person. So like, that's why I know for a fact that when we go back to the gym, like, there's going to be so many people that are just so unhappy with themselves because they could have gone online, but they knew that it wasn't the thing for them, because they wouldn't get up and do it themselves. You know, they're not going to keep track of themselves. They're not going to keep themselves accountable. And although there's a certain aspect of accountability that comes with the likes of online coaching, the person has to be committed, because I can't go to their house and knock on their door and say, get out. You know, I can't be there in person for them. Now, unless there was no COVID and they lived across the road, of course you could, but you know, you can't do that for people. So there has to be a certain level of commitment. And of course, the coach can help the person to have that commitment and constantly motivate that person. But it has to be a two-way street. Whereas I think the advantage of in-person training with somebody is that you have an appointment. People don't like letting other people down. They don't like you know, not showing up for things. Now, obviously, some people are different, but the majority of people, they don't like letting people down, and they don't like to not turn up for people. So I think when you have an appointment and you know, oh, she's going to be expecting this from me now, I have to get this done, that you're more likely to do it. So there's so many benefits that go with both of them, but I think it's really individual dependent in terms of what one you should go for. Both can be very successful for everybody, but like that, there's a certain level of commitment that comes with both that the person has to be willing to commit to, because otherwise it's just a waste of the coach's time and a waste of the person's time.
Yeah, 100%. I have a screening process now myself at the moment, like when I am coaching people, that if you're not ticking like certain boxes, for the benefit of them as well as me, there's no point in going ahead with it, you know, because at the end of it, it's just going to end up being stale. It'll end up maybe being a sour kind of relationship. And like
Exactly.
I think intrinsic motivation is a massive part. So unless it's intrinsically coming for them that they want to do this,
Yeah,
you're not really going to get far. So,
absolutely. They have to have that drive, and a lot of people think that once they hand over the money, oh, I'll get the result now, I can just sit back and relax and they'll do it for me. It is a two-way street. It is something that they have to commit to as well, and if that commitment isn't there, it's not going to happen. And like, you've so many people that like will even say to you, oh no, I stuck to it, and you're like, but did you?
yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
the reality of it that they didn't, you know. So it's something that takes commitment, but like that, it's a process, and it's supposed to be enjoyable, and it's not supposed to be a chore. And the more you kind of develop your ability to enjoy these things, or even take part in things that you enjoy. If you don't like weight training, don't do weight training. You know, you'll eventually develop into wanting to change your training once you're mad into exercise, and you'll want to experiment with weights then. If you hate it, don't do it. Find what works for you and stick with that. It's a process, you know. It's not going to happen overnight. Stick with what you enjoy, and stick with what you can do, and at the end of the day, you will get there once you stick with it.
Definitely, 100%. So just because we need to move on as well, because I could honestly sit here for the day and chat about you, but you were talking about kind of future plans and stuff. So what is the future plans for Ray?
So obviously I'm due to start this new job that I was meant to start in January. I'm due to start that on the 7th of June. So I am going to go back and do that. I'm going to hopefully, like, the dream for me is to be able to travel the world with my work on my laptop. So I had planned to go to Australia last January, that obviously hasn't gone to plan. I've been told that you can't go to Australia until 2023 now, without the quarantine, of course. So I think I'm just going to work until the end of the year. Maybe not, depending if my online business grows even more. I won't be able to have the two jobs. I'll have to just be the online coaching, which is the dream, which is where I do want to be anyways. But the dream then long term would be to, obviously I want to travel the world. I want to have that done by the time I'm 28, 29. I want to have my work on my laptop the whole time that I'm doing that, so that I can experience as much as possible while also doing what I love and helping people to improve and in every aspect of the world. Like, I've got a client in Australia, I've got a client in Canada, and like, I know that once I travel, I'll get more people from these places, and, you know, experiencing all these different cultures and how their culture affects their lifestyle, and how you have to approach different things depending on their cultures. I think would be really interesting. And then I probably will come home, and I'll probably settle in Ireland, probably in Ennis, because I want my kids to play for Aero, the same club that I play for. So yeah, come home and settle down then, I suppose.
Any guys out there not hearing that, remember that you have to go to Clare. It's the only way. So just like kind of that, I like the vibe I totally got off it, like, is pure Instagrammer lifestyle, out by the pool, laptop on one side, literally cocktail in the other hand, just absolutely living it up.
Like, no, there'd be no pools, no living the high life. It'd be like staying in hostels and living with a backpack. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see, I'd be different now. I'd like a beach, and I'd like to just like purely chill, like in a sun shower, just like, yeah, and just click away a few buttons and delighted. Lovely job.
Yeah, maybe years down the line, yeah, when I get to go on expensive holidays, but it'll be like, living on the bare minimum, and it'll be an experience, hopefully.
Yeah, that sounds good. Have you any place in mind?
I want to go to Vietnam first, and then,
yeah, you're saying that, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously I want to do like Thailand and Bali and all those kind of places. New Zealand, Australia. I want to interrail through Europe. I want to go Canada, America.
Yeah, Bali definitely on my list. Definitely.
Yeah, has to be.
Oh, unreal. Unreal. Yeah, and I have an aunt in Canada too, so I'd probably head there at some stage, surely.
Yeah, there's loads of people going to Canada these days. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. We're near the end of the show. So the next thing I'm going to go into is I'm looking at the sheet because I have the 3 questions written down. It's the Walsh Weekly, so it's a Instagram kind of mini series I did before Christmas. So the good thing is, we weren't following each other on Instagram at that stage, so you wouldn't have seen any of these. But the first question is, can money inspire happiness?
Can money inspire happiness? I think money can inspire happiness. I don't think money is the key to happiness. But I do think it can inspire happiness, like whether it's short-term happiness or whether it's, living your dream life. I do think that it can inspire because you can purchase things that are going to give you, whether it's a short-lived bit of happiness or whether it's a long-term thing that you're going to forever be grateful that you have. I do think that money can inspire happiness, but I don't think it's the key. Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The reason I asked it that way, I asked it can instead of does, because like a lot of people read things a lot differently, is what I notice.
Yeah.
So if I think I asked the question, does money inspire happiness? Like I remember on the poll, a lot of people said it does. But if I asked it, does money inspire happiness? I think loads of people would say no.
Yeah.
In fact, I said, can money inspire happiness? I think there's just a difference.
Yeah, it can, because you can't say that it can't, because for some people it absolutely can.
Yeah, well, definitely. It's all about money now. I must say, I'd love to have lots of money.
Yeah, I need 24 millions.
Yeah, like I've thought about so much. I was like, why didn't like my parents like introduce me to like fighting or something, where like I could earn like a million like in literally 20 minutes, like.
Send me to private rugby school where I can make loads of money from school then.
There you go. We could like get you set up like a physio room and just like do it for just rugby players.
Oh,
yeah. Loads of them.
dream.
Okay, so the next question is adulthood what you expected it to be?
Yeah, I think when I was young, I thought adulthood was going to be the best thing ever. I thought that it was going to be, I can go out to the nightclubs with my friends whenever I want because I won't have to ask permission anymore, and like the little things. But I don't think it's not what I expected it to be from the point of view of there's a lot more involved in adulthood than not having to ask your parents for permission anymore. And I think that's what a lot of young people see adulthood as, is where you don't need to ask permission anymore. But there's so much more involved. Like I always say, I'd love to go back to school because you don't have to worry about money, you don't have to worry about work, you don't have to worry about anything. You've no worries, even though it feels like when you have a fight with your friend, the whole world is falling down around you. But it's not what I expected it to be, but it's not. I definitely am happy with how it's going so far. Obviously, we all have ups and downs, but where I am at the moment, I would not like to be in any other place. So it isn't what I expected it to be, but I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah, I like that. Like it's funny what you're saying there. Like you'd love to go back to school. I remember one of the guys, like we were above it. Like we coached the under-19 football team here in the club, and we were just about training them. And before our session, like the under like 6s and under 8s, like hurlers go up training. And he was just watching them. He's like, I'd love to go back at that age, like inside in school now, and just coming up here on a Sunday morning, flaking a ball around. Because we didn't know hurling in the club when we were younger. And he was like, would you like to, like just go back? And I was like, no. Because, as in, it's obvious now that you had no worries and stuff. But at the time, you didn't, like, and plus I was a little brat back then, so I didn't want to go back. But yeah, like it's like you're saying, like, I'm struggling not to get the words out properly, but it's just after experiencing everything that you did experience, then you're coming to where you are now and where you're going to, and it's like, yeah, that was all worth it. That all those things that happened, good and bad, have led me to here, and like that's a beautiful process, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is a process, including life. So
there you go.
Yeah.
This conversation is a process. So the last question is there any one thing that every person in the world can agree on?
Is there any one thing that everybody can agree on? I think that everybody could agree that, I see there's aspects to everything. I think that everybody could agree that nobody is perfect, but then you might have certain people that, but then I think we could also agree that nobody is the same. Like
Yeah.
we all, like I always say, like we all have the same feelings. We all, you know, have life experience from whatever aspect that is, but nobody has lived the exact same life as the other person. So I think that one thing that everybody could probably agree on is that none of us are exactly the same, although we feel the same feelings, and we might have some similar experiences, but everything impacts everybody differently. So nobody is the same. And yeah, that's what I think. Everybody can agree that none of us are the exact same as the next.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Really interesting. Yeah. Like it's funny, like it shows people mindsets. When everyone like kind of gets asked that question, they automatically think of stuff that is, but you thought of something that isn't.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. So like a lot of people were like, oh, everyone hates Donald Trump. Like I remember like that comment came in about 100 times. I was like, geez, I was like, I actually don't hate him, which is weird. But okay, fair enough. So yeah, it's just funny. Like so many people when they get asked the question, think of what possibly it could be, but you actually change it around to what something that isn't. So that's really, yeah, I agree with that. No problem. So the last couple of questions is just, it's literally whatever you can kind of think yourself. So what 3 things do you do on your daily life that like really improves your overall wellness and well-being?
I get outside every day, whether it's for like 5 minutes or whether it's for a walk. Because obviously I have a treadmill here, so I do a lot of my cardio sessions inside. So I think it's really important to get out in the air, like, and just kind of, I know people are always like, oh, to like clear your head, which is so much easier said than done. But I do think just to get outside and like take a deep breath and be present and where you are at that time. Another thing I do is I come home to my dog every day and I give him loads of cuddles because I miss him loads.
Shout out to Dylan Wall.
Yeah, he's still over there looking at me at the moment. What else do I do? I suppose I try to be as active as possible. Like my mother always says to me, Ray, like when you're not training, you're like a devil. Like I'd be going around pure moody because I just feel so much better when I'm, when I'm active, whether it's that I'm going for a walk every day or that I'm like training hard all the time. When I'm doing stuff, when I have, I suppose, not even a goal, but when I'm religiously active and in some way, shape or form, it honestly transforms my whole personality and my whole mindset. So yeah, I think that's...
Did you watch my last podcast? You're after stealing something from me there.
No.
Yeah, but that's such great promotion for me. Did you watch my last podcast? No.
But I have watched a few before that. I just haven't watched
I'm joking. No, it's just like literally, like I asked Paul, like Paul was my last guest. I was like, what do you do? Like, and he was like, it's just like I go outside, but I go outside to go outside. And how you described how you go outside is exactly how I described how I go outside. I go out and then sometimes I just be present and take a deep breath, like literally, and
vibrations were on the same.
Telling you, rubbing off on each other.
Yeah.
So last thing is, so if you could give like 3 recommendations for the viewers, it couldn't be the same things that you do, but if there's anything that you've worked with a lot of clientele, is there anything that you see as a general thing that people kind of could do themselves, like 3 things?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people find is that they think that things aren't going to get better. People kind of settle for where they are at the moment. And I think that, like, obviously people have so much to be grateful for, but they don't recognize it as things to be grateful for. Like, I get so many people coming to me and they're like, oh, but this is going wrong. And I'm like, yeah, but what about, you told me about this? That's great. Like, recognize things in your life that are positive and that you can literally thrive off of. And then I think to be nice to other people as well is one thing that I've seen so much of these days that people aren't. Obviously nobody can be in the best form all the time. Like, even myself, I find sometimes I might kind of say something a bit passively and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Like, just be aware of how you treat other people. And then I suppose just to look after yourself, like make sure that you're doing things that are going to benefit yourself on the regular. Like, don't be just like going about daily life and kind of treading through it, like, and saying, oh, this is like, like what I said the first point, like, make sure that you're grateful for what you have, but also look at like what you don't like, get rid of it. Like, why are you doing these things? Like, look after yourself, do what you love and do what you want to do, and get the most out of life. It's not that long, so get the most out of it, focus on what you love and bring that to the light, and let that be your driving force.
Yeah, 100%. But like what I really kind of picked up on there, you're saying like kind of get rid of the things that kind of aren't working. Like there's so many people that like they like to be honest, I actually don't even entertain the conversation with a lot of people anymore, and I know that sounds bad, but it's just because I know I'm not going to be able to change it. But there's so many people that like kind of do things, and next thing they get really kind of worked up about it. But they never actually change it, even though they're and they keep repeating it. It's like a cycle that's going around and around and around, and just they never get out of it. It's so unfortunate that that kind of happens. But I'm still a firm believer that everyone finds it eventually.
Yeah.
Whether it's that they're stuck in that bad thing, that's what was meant for them, okay. But other people then that actually end up flourishing, they will find it eventually. Everyone has their time, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And like that, like I keep saying, it's a process. It's not going to be all uphill. It's not like rainbows and unicorns all the time. There's going to be parts of your life where you're kind of like, oh God, why is this happening? But don't dwell on it. Get up, go do something about it. Like, obviously you mightn't be able to change it today or tomorrow, but put that in the works, put a plan in place, get yourself out of the thing that you're not enjoying, and don't sit in it and wallow in it, because there's no point. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to feel like that all the time. Everybody wants to feel better, and everyone wants the best out of life. So do it. Just go and do it. There might be the smallest little step that you can take that can turn your whole life around. So figure out what it is and change it.
100%. Yeah, definitely. Just funny, do you believe in unicorns?
Oh, unicorns are my obsession. I'm actually wearing unicorns right now. Yeah.
Really?
I would show you, but I'm wearing there.
It's all good. Keep it PG. I'm joking. So no, I was just interested. Like, I don't know. There's so many like kind of things like unicorns, like loads of different things like that. People have like different theories. Do they exist or not? Like, it's cool. Like.
I don't know if they exist. I just think that they're a representation of like beauty and happiness. I think they represent a lot of happiness for people. Like, I always say, like, what people often say to me, like when we're training, it's like, oh God, I might be a bit smelly, and I'm like, don't worry, you smell like rainbows and unicorns, because that's that's a kind of a general representation that everybody associates with happiness and goodness and I suppose positivity. So like, at the end of the day, I don't know if they exist. Well, I probably do know that they don't exist, but I developed an obsession for unicorns when I was actually in the Bahamas. So I've got loads of unicorn stuff, and I do think that they can shed a bit of light on certain aspects of life.
Yeah, it's kind of what they represent.
Yeah, what they represent, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Right, I won't keep you much longer because I know you're a very busy woman with all your clients and stuff. So thanks so much for coming on the show. I honestly thoroughly enjoyed that chat. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well.
Okay, so guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.